Hey guys, Dave here. Welcome to the Centurions Review, the punk rock band of wargame review institutions. This is Company of Heroes, and I'm doing a review here. First, I'm going to show how to play about 2 turns, and then Len and I will do our review portion of the video. First thing you do in this is you pick a mission. You can also write your own missions, I guess, if you want to, but we're just going to pick the basic one. So it's this one here, DuPont's on the small map. Basically you set it up with these resources here on the map, and starting income is 2 manpower, 1 munition, and 1 fuel, and starting stockpile is 4, 2, and 2. I'll show you on the player board. So you, as I mentioned before, you start with 2 manpower, 1 munition, 1 fuel, and 0 victory points. That's your income. That tells you how much you get per turn. And here's your actual stockpile. So you stockpiled 4 manpower, 2 munition, 2 fuel, and 0 victory points. And the Germans down here, they have the exact same starting thing. So every turn, you're going to add your income to your stockpile. So that's basically how the game works, and you spend the resources in your stockpile to buy different units or do upgrades. And as far as the victory points, each scenario has a certain number of victory points needed. In this scenario it's 10, so the first to get to 10 victory points wins. At the start of the game, each player will choose 2 green infantry squads. See how this is green here? So they don't have to pay points for these. So the Germans are going to choose 2 MG42. The Soviets, they're going to pick 1 conscript and 1 mortar to start. One last thing I need to mention is that only 1 unit card starts face up, the other 2 start face down. So like you have to you can reveal these in order. This is the second and the third. This has to be revealed first. You'd spend 1 manpower and 3 fuel, and then you'd flip it over and you'd have access to these types of units. And the same with this one, you would spend 2 manpower or 5 fuel, and then you get access to the units here. And these are real powerful ones like Flak Panzers and Panzer IVs and Sturm Panzers. So it's a good idea when you get an opportunity to pay the cost to flip those over so you have more unit types. So the German machine gun teams are going to start here. As you see, you got little plastic trays for them. And the Russians are starting down here. Here's their mortar unit, and here's their conscript infantry unit. Stacking limit is 1 for this, so you can't have more than 1 unit per space. So the sequence of play is maneuver phase, which has determined turn order, and then you spend 3 CP per player, alternating teams until all 9 are spent for movement. And then there's the damage phase, and then there's the supply phase. For the damage phase, you first assign damage, and then after everyone's assigned damage, then you'll roll defense dice to see if the damage took or not. And then there's a supply phase where you capture flags and adjust incomes, collect resources, and spend resources to spawn units, purchase upgrades, or unlock buildings, and you can repair and reinforce at the end. So the German player is going to spend 3 CP, so spend 1 there to move this here. And then he's going to spend 1 CP to move this unit here. And now the Russians, it's their turn to spend CP. So this one's going to spend 2 to move this mortar team here. Mortar teams can capture objectives, so can infantry. As long as the unit has a green heart on it, it can capture objectives, basically. There's some exceptions to that, but that's the general rule. And then the third one here, go right there. Here's the exception. Since this has a capture symbol here, this can capture even though it's not a green unit. Now it's back to the Germans. 1 CP's been spent on him, so he can spend an additional 2 on him. You can't spend more than 3 CP total on a unit, so spend 1 there, and he moves into here. And now the Russians will go. And he's going to go around here this way. 1, 2, 3. Alright, each side has has cubes left, but they have nothing they can move because they've all either moved 3 or they want to stop where they are. Like this one wants to stop here, so that's the end of the maneuver phase. Now it's the damage phase. Machine guns will pin. These units are out of range of the machine gun, so they can't pin them. And now it's time to assign all damage. Yeah, nothing's within range of them, as I mentioned, but however, the Soviets have a range of 5, so this would be in range, but however, for sighting, you can only see 2 hexes out, so they would need a spotter like somewhere over here in order to hit. So he's got no spotter, so they can't hit. Alright, so now it's a capture phase. So they've captured this manpower here. So he gets a red symbol he puts over it here to show that he's captured it. You have to hold it or be the last person to have it, because if another unit goes into that space and you've left, they can recapture the resource. Something to think about. Alright, so they're going to adjust their income here. So that was a manpower, so that goes up to 3 for them. And then the Germans here, they capture this one, they'll be the blue team. So we can go down here and adjust their manpower to 3. Alright, so now we're going to adjust the stack piles here. Since that's at 3, this goes up from 4 to 7. This goes from 2 to 3. 2 to 3, and victory point stays there. So this goes up to 7. Goes to 3, that goes to 3, and this stays here. Alright, now we're going to spend resources. The Russians will go first. Let's grab their card here. So the Russians, let's see what they can do. They're going to buy 2 conscripts, which will cost them a total of 6. So that brings their stockpile down to 1. And let's see what the Germans are going to do. Germans are going to buy 1 machine gun team, so I'll bring them down to 3. Alright, I will set up the forces now. The Germans have enough left to buy one other thing here. They can buy a Kuba wagon for 2 manpower and 2 fuel. So manpower will go down to 1 here, and fuel will go down to 1. So the Russians, their units came on here. This is a reinforcement area. You can also move a damaged unit to a reinforcement area to heal it at the end of the turn, or you can get next to a vehicle that has a healing capability, such as the Kuba wagon, and at the end of the turn that will heal you. The rules don't say with healing how many steps are healed, so if you have 2 dead here, does it give you 1 back, or does it give you both back? It doesn't say in the rules, so I just assumed it's both, but that's something I got to look into. Germans are coming in down here. Here's a machine gun team. Here's our Kuba wagon. The Kuba wagon has a speed dice on it. The reason for that is because each turn it can move up to 3, just like any other unit, but it can spend the speed dice to move 4. So we'll now to see which side goes first, because they have equal victory points. So we'll do the first roll for the Russians. They get nothing. And then the Germans get 1, so Germans go first again. Alright, so this MG42 units can go first because he wants to capture this victory point here, so he adds that to his income. So he spends 2 to go here, and he's got a 3rd left. So the 3rd, he's going to spend on this guy to move here. Now it's the Russians. This one's going to spend 1, 2 to move to this space here. And this one's going to spend 1 to move to spend 1 to move to there. Alright, back to the Germans. So this is going to spend 2 to go here. And we got the third pip left. So I will put it on the Kuba wagon to move that 1. And now back to the Russians. This is going to spend 2 here. 1, 2 to move there. And then his third one, he'll spend here to move this here. Now it's back to the Germans. Germans have 3 pips. So that's already moved 1. So we'll go 2, 3. And then he can spend his speed dice to move 4, so he gets to there. Alright, Russians. They've got 3 pips left. So this is going to move forward 2. 1, 2. And it's going to use this last one here to move this guy forward 1. Alright, we're in the damage phase now, so the first thing that happens is machine guns pin. Alright, a unit that's pinned cannot deal damage, capture control points, spend CP, move, or use abilities. They still receive defense dice, reinforcement, and can spot. They remain pinned until the end of the round. So owing this, the machine gun unit has something in range that they can pin. So he's going to pin this unit here. This will stop it from collecting this objective here, or resource. This unit down here doesn't have any... Oh, it does have 1 in range. Actually, let me take that back. This unit will pin that one. And this unit will pin this one. Alright, we got it right. Okay, now we assign damage. So he can still spot even though he's pinned, so he's going to spot there for... Actually, we don't even need that done. This mortar here, oh, he can't fire, so yeah, there's no spotting then for it. So he's got a range of 2, so he's going to put a damage dice down here. He does anti-infantry damage. This one's got nothing in range. As far as the Germans, he's got nothing within range. The Kuba wagon's got something in range, so place anti-infantry there. And this will place anti-infantry here. Now it's time to see if the damage did anything. So this is a green unit here, and it's being attacked by anti-infantry, so he doesn't get to defend because there's no shield symbol there. So he takes 2 damage automatically, so he loses 2 troops on there. Over here, same with the machine gun. He can't defend versus that, so he loses a guy. If you kill all the troops in a unit, then you'll get 1 victory point for doing so. And there's nothing else, so that's the damage for the turn. Alright, now for the capture phase. He can't capture there because he's pinned. However, the German here can capture that. So the German puts this on here. And the German will increase his fuel income now. And then we go over here, and the Germans capture this victory point. So he goes here, and the victory point income goes up by from 0 to 1. Alright, so now it's time to collect resources by income level. So the Russians will go from 1 to 4, and 3 to 4, 3 to 4, and the Germans down here, this will go from 1 to 4, and munitions will go from 3 to 4, and fuel from 1 to 2. And oh, I forgot to move his victory point income up 1. But since that's up to 1, now his victory points go up here. So now he has 1 victory point. He needs 9 more to win. And then at this point, you can either, at this point, you can build new units with your stockpiles there. And at the end of the turn, you can do repairs and reinforcements. There's nothing in the reinforcement zones that need to be reinforced and nothing that needs repairs, so they would just purchase units now. But alright, so now we can spend for new units for next turn. So the Germans would buy probably 2 machine gun, well, 1 machine gun team, which brings his manpower down to 0. And then the Russians, they're going to buy some conscripts, which brings us down to 1. Or you know what? No, they're going to go, that goes down to 2. And this goes down to 2, and they'll buy a scout car. So that's the basics of how you do a few turns in this. There's also advanced rules for the game too, but Len and I will do our review portion now. Hey guys, Dave and Len here. Today we're reviewing Company of Heroes, the board game. Let me see if I can lift this without getting a hernia. This box weighs as much as War in the Pacific, if not more, but it's got the best components I've ever seen in a World War II board game by far. Plays a little bit like a Euro, so if you're a war gamer, it's going to take you longer to learn the game if you're a regular war gamer than if you're a Euro player. Euro player would probably catch on right away. It's going to take a few more turns for the war gamer to catch on. But essentially what's going on in the game is you have some starting forces, you build your own forces, and you're trying to get victory points, and there's all sorts of different scenarios and stuff, and a lot of the units have special abilities, like the machine guns have pinning abilities, and the Kuba wagon, for example, can reinforce units that are next to it and stuff. And the different units can be upgraded, and you start with different income levels for different types of income. And as the game goes along, those add to your supply, and you can spend these incomes to buy units or to upgrade or to flip over cards, so you can have additional unit types. You have the capability to build and stuff. It's based on a series of video games called Company of Heroes. What'd you think of it, Len?
Actually, I only played this once. To me, it's an example of one of those simple games that are hard to learn. I tend to run from these things. But Dave is right about it. It seemed like it's a Euro-type game. I'm not used to all these symbols and also the funny dice. I tend to look down with my snobby nose on things like that. However, the components are outstanding. We have mountain maps. I haven't seen mountain maps since Avalon Hill went out of business. And instead of little cardboard counters, you have plastic tanks and plastic infantrymen. So it looks like a miniatures game that went wild.
Yeah, the game's good. But the rule book, there was a few things I was unsure of after reading the rule book, so I had to go online and watch their video about the basic rules, and that answered the 2 questions I had. But other than that, the rule book is actually pretty good. There's just a few areas I had to research.
Yeah, simple game that's hard to learn. And of course, I did complain about the machine guns having too powerful.
Well, I didn't think it was hard to learn. I just thought it'd take a little bit longer to learn than a typical war game, because it's more like a Euro. Yeah. But the areas I think need to be improved is the machine gun units are ridiculously powerful for a small cost, because a machine gun unit can pin a unit and attack on the same turn, so it's a very powerful unit. And I mean, theoretically, you as the Germans could have 6 of those, up to 6 during the game, so that's 6 units they automatically pin with it if they're within range, and if the enemy is a green unit.
And also, the mortars don't pin people down. And that's why I wanted mortars at the beginning. Because I figured if they had a... mortars tend to pin people down, because when the first round explodes, everybody hits the dirt because they don't know where it's coming from. They're actually more terrified of mortars because they're so quiet when they fall. So, actually, I think somebody figured out that mortars cause less damage than a lot of weapons, but they terrify the infantrymen more. So it's like
mortars have a long range though, and I believe they're indirect fire too, so that's
yeah,
good.
they're indirect fire.
Yeah,
because I think some of them you have a range. I think like 60 millimeters, a quarter mile. You may be able to see the guy shooting depending on the terrain, but yeah. But the 81s and of course the 120s are much longer range.
Yeah, 120s got I think a several mile range.
Yeah. So,
but overall, yeah, I'd say I don't know if it's still it's a new game, but I think they're sold out. But when this comes into production again, yeah, it's definitely something worth considering getting. And if you end up not liking the game, it's not like other games where all is lost. The miniatures are so good in this, you can just use them, the miniatures for a standard World War II miniature game. They look like they're approximately 15mm scale, so I mean, you can use them with Flames of War or whatever World War II miniature rules you're using. So do you recommend this game, Len?
yeah, I tell you, it's a good game, even though I had a devil of a time. But like I said, it's one of those games that's hard to learn, but at the end I was getting the hang of it.
That's good. All right, thanks guys. We'll have something new to review next week. Have a good evening.